Stealing these. I like to keep them all together with the signatures that we need. Oh, dear.
as a preacher's wife shaking hands.
I love that principle.
County Board of Trustees school meeting for the month of May. If I could get everyone to rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance and then observe a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay. First up is the consent agenda. I'm sorry, I'm feeling ill. Very ill. Trying to make it through here. The consent agenda items. Is this Kendra, right? Or is this not Kendra? Okay. Is there any discussion?
Make a motion and we accept.
I have a
Motion?
I have a couple questions.
Fire
Are
away.
we doing the second first? Or?
No.
Anyway. We already talked about the meeting minutes from the executive board.
Yes, I'll get those,
Or the special meeting,
figure
sorry.
out how to get those corrected.
The first is, we have 3 overnight field trip requests in there for athletics.
Yes.
I'll ask again, what is the oversight and guidelines for an overnight trip? Last time it was said something, and I'm paraphrasing, that was handled in the request by the coach or sponsor, et cetera. I'm asking, sorry. I'm asking, it seems like another example of lack of communication. We had an overnight trip.
Just to let you know, that'll be me in about 10 minutes probably.
It's hard to compete with that, isn't it?
I'm sorry, go on, Kevin.
I just want to know or make sure that there should be a detailed timeline and agenda, not just a request to stay overnight. Like the UK trip, I'm sure there will be a fairly detailed agenda. But I bring up a recent trip with an athletic team, and it was a Friday, Saturday overnight. Friday night, we were told that the players had to stay with the team. The next day, in between games, nothing was said otherwise. Half the kids went with the parents and half did not, so they had to stay there in the cold because there was no communication. The night that they did have to stay together, and I'm all for that, don't get me wrong, but they also all went to dinner and paid for their own dinner. I feel like there needs to be a plan and more oversight with those, a more detailed agenda and timeline.
What do you mean that the people went on their own and they were left out in the cold? What do you mean?
We played in a softball tournament in Kokomo. We went up Friday, we had a game. The girls were not allowed to go to dinner with their parents. Again, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Team dinner.
They went with the team, and they ended up going to Olive Garden because the other place was closed, or maybe it was the other way around. Either way. And they had to pay for their own dinner, so it was a team dinner, but everybody was on their own. The next day, we had a morning game, and after that, there was a 2-hour break before the next game, but the girls had to be back within an hour to get warmed up. Again, understand that. Most of us, knowing the rules from the night before, gave them money. They stayed there outside, and we're going to eat concession stand, or if somebody wanted to bring something back, but they did not leave. The other half, apparently left with parents. Again,
Mr.
I feel there
President,
needs to be more oversight.
You are approving an overnight trip on the advice of our attorney because they're taking school transportation and they need to be, make sure that it's board approved so we cover our liability purposes. We're not approving the agenda or what's happening or those types of things. So if the athletic director or whomever needs to do a better job of following up on that, we can do that, but that's not what we're approving when we do these kinds of trips. We're approving it for school transportation and liability reasons.
Okay, but I understand. We'll leave it at that. But we hadn't had prior discussion about it. The other part, we have had some discussion about this with the varsity coaches, the recommendations. It is sooner than usual with most all of them being the fall sports, which is great. But these sports have been done since October. When were the evaluations done? Who completed them? Why are they not included with the recommendations as we get a lot more paperwork with new hires, such as the teachers that we're hiring? Again, Francis and I have had this conversation. I feel there should be more information provided.
We never have shared any evaluation of any coach. That has never been a request of the board. Those evaluations have been completed, though.
I would make a motion that we table the varsity coaches until we have more information, and as we have discussed, setting a policy as to when and how evaluations are done, or at least setting a timeline after the seasons have completed. Again, not saying they won't be approved later, but I would make a motion that we table that item until.
Why do you feel it necessary that you see the evaluation?
We are voting on whether to hire an employee. If we have questions, should we not be able to see the evaluations or why they're being recommended? To make sure it's being
You
done.
can also ask that question as well. You can ask that question without seeing an evaluation.
I can ask what question?
Why are you hiring them? What quality do they possess that we want to do that?
And we have had that discussion.
I know,
That
yeah.
I would like to, and now
And
we
I
have-
think, I do agree that they should have an evaluation to where they know what's expected of them. But as far as me seeing an evaluation, I don't think that's appropriate.
The evaluations are done by the athletic director and approved by the principal. So we have two administrative eyes on those, and that's why I feel very comfortable with those recommendations coming to the board based on their recommendations as the roles that we put them in.
So even though we are voting on whether to approve that recommendation, we don't get any other information other than they are recommended.
Correct. Yes, that's what we've done, yes.
Do you have a concern about one?
Nothing in particular, I'm just looking at the list. But I think there should be more information. If we are voting to hire somebody and extend their contract, then we should be able to ask questions and get more information.
You can ask questions.
And I am asking the question, I'm making
In
a
an open
motion.
boardroom, though.
I'm sorry?
In an open boardroom, though. This is a business meeting, not a personnel evaluation.
And I am making a motion to table that specific item.
Okay, is there a second for tabling it?
No second.
Okay, all in favor of tabling? We have 3-4. All opposed? 3 against. Motion doesn't pass.
May I say something as a former athletic director?
You may.
As a former athletic director, evaluations were done very quickly after the season. If there was something that needed to be worked on or needed to be taken into consideration, that was also done. And then the recommendation, as Tammy said, went from me, whether it was good or bad, went to the principal. If there was a question, that was talked over. The evaluation that is done is always shared with the coach themselves. They can disagree, they can rebut, they can put anything into that evaluation that they would like, but the recommendation does start with the athletic director. then it goes to the principal. It's brought to us to make the final decision.
Not only that, but we're not interviewing the candidates. We're basing it off what they recommend to do that. We expect them to do their jobs.
So I'm asking for some oversight. That's it.
From you or from whom?
We are the ones voting to approve whether they are
Okay.
hired or not. So
That's
yes.
micromanagement right there is the
Yeah.
finest, is you're going to decide whether the person gets a job based off their qualifications. Why don't you just have them send you the resume and save the middleman?
And we do get the resumes with the teachers, so if we have questions, we can ask. But we don't get that for this.
So we're going to take out personnel at the high school, coaching only, so that comes out of the consent agenda items and everything else. We have a motion on the table by Mr. Gill.
I second that.
All in favor? Motion passes 7-0. 6-0. 5-0-6.
You can ask, I understand what you're saying, Kevin. Prior to any voting or something like that, you can ask that that section be taken out and looked at, and
It was actually three.
if you have a problem with one of the coaches or, because people's called me about it, and if you want to
I know.
get a hold of the athletic director and tell him the concerns of what someone told you, then you can. But you can ask that that section be taken out and looked at individually.
Which is what I did. I didn't know who the recommendations were until about 2:30 today. And I have asked questions previously, and the response was that's being handled or taken care of, or that's their job. Again, it's oversight. We are the ones voting to approve this, so why is it such a odd request for more information?
Okay. Vote's been made, it's been passed, and we'll move on to the next item. The next item is the financial reports.
The education fund balance as of April 30th, 2023 was $3,436,211.48. A year ago, this balance was $2,233,026.37. The operations fund balance as of April 30th, 2023 was $16,833.62. A year ago, this balance was a negative $701.28. Sorry. The investment interest earned year to date as of April 30th, 2023 was $31,803.40. This is compared to $7,796.82 a year ago.
Now, the investment fund, is that with the
It is.
money going to that Indiana?
So this is a combination of that fund along with our checking accounts. They are earning higher interest. I have called on recommendation of getting those all increased back in March, and this is a direct reflection of all of those with FCN and First Financial, our accounts there. That is, as of May 1st, now earning a much higher interest, so that will also increase more in the next board meeting. But yes.
Good job.
Oh, thank
Good job.
This was a
That's pretty
discussion only item. Any other discussion? Cafeteria report.
The cafeteria fund balance as of April 30th, 2023 was $554,374.50. This is compared to $249,017.04 a year ago. The latchkey fund balance as of April 30th, 2023 was $9,997.07. This is compared to $3,232.48 a year ago.
Any comments?
I'm just glad to see both of them funds going up.
I'm glad to see the kids outside after school, too. They're taking them out and letting them run some steam off.
Okay, the next item is celebrations.
Mrs. Wertz, are you here?
Back
Are you hiding behind there? Okay. She is our JAG sponsor at the high school.
Can anyone sign up to speak?
Yes. If you would like to come to the podium, please. She is going to talk about her students that participated in the State Career Leadership Conference and the National Career Leadership Conference.
You don't come here just for me, because I think it's best that they speak for themselves, the ones that got to attend. I have two that are not here with me. One's playing baseball and the other one's playing softball down in Lawrenceburg. But I did have, I took 4 to state, 3 won, first, second, and third. And then we took 2 to JAG National. Did competed in a couple different events. Did not win, but the experience and stuff that they got to have and stuff. So I'm going to let them talk. Whoever wants to first.
Okay, I have it written down up here, so. Alright. JAG has truly been an amazing class and experience for me. As I've navigated my way through my junior year, I can truly say JAG has provided me with more opportunities and experiences than any other life skills class I've taken. Because of JAG, I've gotten the opportunity to take many field trips and college visits. I've learned about finances and built relationships with my classmates and teacher. I recently got the opportunity to travel to Florida with Ms. Wertz to compete in the National Career Development Conference after placing first at regionals and third at state. During my time at Florida, I got to network with so many other JAG kids from around the country, and it was a great experience. I'm truly blessed and thankful to take this class. This year was my first year ever taking JAG, and I got to compete at the CDC regional and state competition. I ended up getting first at both of them in project-based learning, and it was really an amazing experience because I got to learn a lot about myself, and I got to help better our school. My PBL was over mental health and self-esteem, so I tried to find different ways that I could help boost that around our school. And one way is by doing murals in all the bathrooms in the school, which we plan to start this summer after school's over. So I'm really excited about that. And at both the competitions, I got to meet a lot of new students around the state who are in JAG, and it's really helped me learn a lot. This is my first year in JAG as well. I myself am a very introverted person. And with being in JAG, I got to compete at regionals in public speaking, which I never would have thought I would do, but I ended up doing it, and I really enjoyed it. And then I also went to nationals as well. I competed in employability skills there, and the biggest thing that happened at nationals, without Tanya, I wouldn't have been able to do this. She was the first person to give them my name, and I got to sing the national anthem in front of everyone. And
There's over 1,000 people.
Yeah. And this was the award that I got, so I was very proud of that. And singing in front of people, that was one of the biggest opportunities, so I'm glad I got to do it.
I just wanted them recognized because I'm a proud mama. They're my kids, and just for what they've been able to accomplish and what we've been able to accomplish with JAG, I'm very, very thankful for what I get to do each and every day with my kiddos.
That's awesome.
Can we get a photo over there?
Good job.
He's over here.
I'm going to be Mr. Isaacs here for a second. Mr. I'm going to be Mr. Isaacs tonight. He's not feeling so well. So Mr. Randy Bear was chosen as May's Support Staff of the Month. In 2014, Randy joined the school corporation as a full-time employee. He was nominated by an administrator in the school corporation. When asked why he should be considered for this recognition, she responded, "As a new administrator to Franklin County, Randy has gone out of his way to offer assistance and guidance. As improvements are made around the building, he takes the time to explain the unknown processes and puts in 110%, I'm going to probably say 120%, 130%, to make sure the staff have everything they need to do their job effectively. He's patient, kind, and always has a positive attitude. He loves working on his old trucks and woodworking projects, and we asked Randy what he likes about his job and working with all my wonderful co-workers. So join me in congratulating Mr. Randy Bear as our
I don't want to kick him.
Looks like you brought your entourage with you.
This is my entourage.
Yes. So I'm very honored and excited to announce Missy Renforth as the May's Educator of the Month. I think it was Friday. Was it Friday when I was out in your building?
I think so.
And the kids were in their classroom eating lunch, and they were very, very excited breakfast. Yeah. When I announced that she was the winner, so you can tell that they're a little. And we invite him tonight, but they didn't show up. So she received her bachelor's degree from Indiana University, and she is in her 34 years of teaching. She's taught 3rd, 4th, and 5th all at Laurel, correct?
Yes, the only place I've been.
Yes. She was nominated by several parents for this honor, and the parents said she is a wonderful teacher who makes the difference in our kids' lives. She makes sure all of the parents are kept in the loop with what's going on in her daily classes, and she's always readily available. Do you still do Girls on the Run?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so she's running with the girls after school?
I'm walking with
briskly.
girls. My entourage laughed.
So, this is just a fun opportunity for the students, and she makes everybody feel special and have fun. I know she's really involved in her church, anything IU, basketball, football, girls basketball, and Colts. And so we always ask our chosen Educator of the Month what do they like about their job. It's the amazing people and kids that she gets to work with every day. My work family has made me a better teacher in person. The group of teachers in the intermediate wing at Laurel have been an awesome support for me through good times and bad. My favorite part of my job is the relationships I form with my students. So congratulations. And you have guests? No, you don't need to talk about them.
My husband, Bill. And I'm inviting my friend Jackie, who started with me at Franklin County. And then these people, they keep me excited. They keep you in line. Well, I don't know if it's.
No one keeps you in
I don't know what
line.
it is, but they.
At this time, anyone who would like to be excused who were part of the celebrations can take absence of us. You're more than welcome to stay.
Look at your computer rig. Bailey's bad. Mine's not caught up. Oh, yeah, it is.
I just said you're welcome to
I knew
stay.
that's probably what you were waiting on.
No, it's
Yeah.
I think this one, Randy.
I'm unable to read this.
Thank you.
Next up is statements from the public.
We have one. In order to address the board, individuals must sign in prior to the start of the meeting. Individuals that have signed in are given 3 minutes to speak. Maximum of 5 individuals may address the board regarding the same topic. Individuals are asked to avoid repetition and shall not be permitted to use the names of individual employees or students. Personal attacks on employees or students will not be tolerated. Mr. Chris Crouch.
I just want to address the board quickly. Shouldn't take much time. I want to explain the circumstances around my daughter leaving prom early and the discipline that she has been given. I feel is unfair. A little bit of background. She had a panic attack. We sent our son, Avery, our younger son, to go get her. She should have told someone. I will be the first to admit that there were mistakes made, and she made some poor judgments. But I don't know that not allowing her to walk for her commencement is a fair punishment for that. It wasn't outlined anywhere. There was no punishment outlined. And that's not really what I'm focused on. I'm more focused on how much attention this is drawn over what I consider a medical emergency. And I hope everyone in the room takes mental illness serious, and because it is serious. It's real, and and I guess I was told that the board was informed of the circumstances and the decision that was made, and I'm here to ask the board to reconsider and come up with an alternative of some sort that would allow my daughter to walk and participate in the graduation with her peers. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
What would you suggest?
As punishment? I don't know that that's my role here, sir.
Well, but if you think that's too severe and we have only a couple weeks of school left, I mean, they could have offered her a suspension or expulsion, and then she wouldn't graduate. I don't think that's fair at all.
No, I don't either.
So, I mean, those are really the only items at our disposal. Unless
Why is that?
Is
It doesn't feel real creative to say we have 3 things of discipline at our disposal. That's what you just said.
Basically because of the time left. What else did you have?
Huh?
What else would you come up with?
That's not my role here. I'm not here to propose a punishment. I'm here merely stating that what you guys have proposed is much too harsh and very unfair.
So noted.
I'm sorry?
I said so noted. I mean, you think it's unfair. I mean, unless you can, I mean, there's nothing else in between, is there, Tammy? I mean, you wanted to go, I'm very sympathetic to that because my son has panic attacks. I don't even think that I'm dismissing that at all.
I have a letter from her doctor.
And
if
my
anyone
son
would like to read that.
My son would have that too.
Or I could read it out loud.
Okay,
if
you're kind of
you
talking
would
over
like to
me
hear
here.
this letter.
Okay, you're talking over me, please.
Okay.
But I don't want to dismiss the severity of what went there, but there's penalties for not following the rules, and unless you can come up with something, I can't think of anything that falls in between.
Does
that's where we
discipline not
stand.
have to be written out? I believe according to Indiana code, it has to be written out and has to be publicized ahead of time.
It's on the website. The
It's
student
on the
handbook.
go ahead.
So it meets what you're referring to as Indiana code. It is publicized. It's on the website.
It's that discipline rule is on the website?
The student handbook is on the website.
Yes, correct. The student handbook says anyone leaving the prom cannot return.
Right.
Nothing, there's no other discipline outlined in the student handbook.
You know,
So I don't know how we made the leap from what's in the handbook to you can't walk at graduation. I don't understand that. Without any discussion, without nothing. So.
Well, I'm going to tell you, if you have an idea for us, I am willing to have that discussion.
I sure wished I had come prepared to suggest what you guys should do. I did not come prepared.
We don't issue the punishment. We issue the policy for the punishment.
No, sir. The policy is not being followed.
the policy is written for a prom in which students drive to.
Correct.
That was not the case in this particular prom, because we took buses to the prom, and they signed a form that said they would take the bus to and from, and the parent and student signed it. It was a different type of prom.
Okay. Any other comments by the board?
I just wonder, is there no other, like, you know, it was, I guess I'm coming from it as, from a parent perspective. My child's worked 13 years towards that milestone in life. And I know from being a parent that had a child that did not go through commencement and missing that milestone, what that felt like. It wasn't for, you know, behavior, it was disability-wise, but that hurt. And I'm not so much looking at it, did she make a kid decision to leave prom? Absolutely. Bad choice, right? Bad choice. But to take that away, that meaningful moment away from her parents, her grandparents, I just think that there has to be a different option, whether it be doing something around the school. Beth and I were talking about those flower beds up front. She took the administrator's time looking and worrying about her. So maybe instead of taking that moment, we take some of her time to do some things around the school, such as helping plant flowers, because the FFA was going to help with it anyways. Why could that not be an option?
It's back to you, Tammy. Would there be an objection to?
Or other form of community service.
Yeah, or
Forms
another
of
form
community
of
service.
community service.
I mean, it's not in the manuals.
Correct.
I mean, he's asking us to follow the manual now. He
We're
wants us to
making,
not follow the manual. So,
correct.
I mean, which way do you want it? I mean.
Well, follow the manual if that's what you'd like, because that says she just can't return to prom. So, I'm not saying don't follow
What
the
did the
manual.
waiver,
I'm
what
asking
did the
you to
waiver
follow the
say?
manual.
What did the waiver say?
I'm sorry?
What did the waiver say?
What way? It's just said
That they signed?
you're to ride the bus to and from.
Right.
That's it. Yeah. I would think a medical emergency supersedes that, but there are no disciplines outlined on that document. That's.
Do you want me to meet with
Did you
them?
notify the school the next day?
Yeah, my wife contacted Whitney. I forget what time. There was communication anywhere from about 2 a.m. to 8 a.m., something like that. I will say, Brandy's right. Administrators probably were worrying about her, and that's not fair. I will never. I'm here standing just to tell you the truth as I know it, and the truth is the girl made a poor decision. But I do think it was medically driven. I really do believe that. Could she have made the decision better? Yeah,
We're not
probably.
making a decision from administrators tonight.
I'm guilty of that every day, so I'm sure she is too.
3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I will be in touch with you.
Okay,
Leave me your
thank
phone
you.
number, please.
I think it's on there.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Okay, next item up
Ally, are you
is-
waiting for what I think you're waiting for? That was in consent agenda items. You are good. Thumbs up. Yes. No, I didn't want you to.
Congratulations.
No, you're supposed to clean up
Congratulations.
after the board meeting.
Okay, I would have
I
waited.
had a feeling that's what you were.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Statement from the employees, do we have any? There are none. Now we're up to old business.
Superintendent's report.
No, there is none.
Oh, okay.
Approve candidate for school board vacancy is up.
Somebody's working on a computer. Yeah, it's somebody else.
Discussion?
I'll make a motion to remove it from the table
See, somebody.
so that we can
somebody's online.
move forward.
Is there a second to remove it from the table?
To rescind it?
To
No,
remove it from the table to
from the
bring it up.
table.
I second.
Motion's been seconded. All in favor? Raise your hand. All in favor. And I apologize for having you come here. If you feel like you want to, call me, please. Of course, my wife answers. It's on you. Now we're up to Board policy. No,
No, can you explain to them?
we can. Okay, here's our
motion,
dilemma.
I've made the motion to remove it from the table. That brings it back up. That's all we did. That's so we can talk about it.
Okay, so here was our situation, is the interpretation of what our policy is with my abstention was, in accordance with Kevin, was that it would have passed. In accordance with what I believed it to be, it would not have. So we saw several opinions out. They're varied, it's very unclear, it's muddled. And the School Board Association said that we should rescind the motion and start all over from scratch. Anyone want to add?
I would like to make a point of order to revisit the previous vote and state that I believe, based on the information that I have provided to the board, that the motion did carry with a majority vote based on our board policy, Indiana common law, and Robert's Rule of Order. In taking those all into consideration, the motion passed with a 3-2 majority. It's not, I didn't make a motion. I made a point of order to revisit the previous
Okay,
vote.
would you like to make a motion?
There is no motion to make. The vote is there.
We just rescinded it.
No, we
No,
didn't.
no, we did not. What would you like for us to do, Kevin?
I am making a point of order to revisit the previous vote based on the minutes that, this isn't a dig, we don't have them, but we all agree that in the minutes it was a 3 in favor, 2 against, and 1 abstention. Based on what I see and what I have presented to the board with our board policy, Indiana common law, Indiana code, and Robert's rule, it passed with a majority vote due to the abstention. In our board policy, the abstention, the term is acquiesce, so it is not a no vote. It goes along with the majority of the rest of the vote. That's the way I read it. So that
Exactly, the way you read it.
And all the evidence that I have provided states the
And
same.
yet the School Board Association attorney said it would be better off to rescind the vote.
Because the
Why would
entire
that be?
process was a mess is the only reason.
Exactly. It's unclear.
It doesn't change the vote.
It changes how it's interpreted on the vote, and we're not going to drag this out.
No,
Is there a
I'm done.
motion to be made?
I make a motion that we rescind the vote.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, Beth seconds. All in favor, raise your hand.
Any discussion?
Well, any discussion?
And so that it's in fairness to the candidates that are sitting there, because there is the interpretation from what the state is saying, and they have said there are interpretations with it. As opposed to dragging it out, it would be all 4 candidates again that would be voted upon.
And then if no
case law to-
consensus is
no case
reached,
law
the
to
circuit
support
judge
it.
will appoint it.
I'm sorry, Francis. He
If-
was talking.
If no consensus is reached, then a circuit judge will appoint the candidate.
But it should not go to that at that point. If we revisit all 4 candidates, we should be able to come to a vote without it
I would
going
hope so.
to that.
If discussion's over, we need to vote on that motion. She asked for discussion, or
Yeah.
Rick did. That's why, that's all I'm saying. I saw it, but I'm just saying.
Okay, Rick has a motion, Katie seconded, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, it's 4-2. Motion carries to rescind it. So do we want to go further with this, or because you've tabled it, we will meet and we will be in touch with you?
We haven't tabled it.
on what goes?
We took it off the table.
Okay, so,
I need pizza.
okay, so what would you like to do at
I think we need to
this
be more
point?
respectful of each other is what I think we need.
Because I would like to make the motion that we put this on a later session where we have a chance to re-interview the candidates and have a time period in between so that we can actually discuss and decide what we think of the candidates at a 2-day period, for example.
So a motion to set a later date for further interviews and a second date for a special meeting.
Exactly. Is there a second? We have a second. All in favor? Randy, did you raise your hand? I'm sorry. Okay.
Did you get mine?
Yeah, I got yours. So that's 6-0. Hey, we agreed on
Who
something.
made the motions?
I did.
And who else?
Me.
Beth seconded.
Okay.
Can I say something to the candidates?
Yes.
Yes, you may.
Apologize that you guys are here and no decision is being made, but appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Again, my sincerest apologies too. Like I said, the vagueness, we could argue about this. Kevin and I have argued about this all week. It's the vagueness that makes it difficult. The terminology, the opinions, what we do, what we don't. The old board policy was much clearer, and so that I can assure you is going to be revisited.
I would just like
If
to
you-
say
if-
I appreciate you guys being
Yeah,
here.
if you decide you want to leave the meeting, I understand. If you want to stay and listen to us argue, feel free to. Okay, next up is board policy.
These policies were presented at the last board meeting, so I'm asking for approval.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion about these? All in favor? 6-0.
So Chris, Mr. Bundy is here. We have just a few additional student handbook changes that we tabled at last month's discussion meeting. And we met today to put those on for tonight's board meeting. So, Mr. Bundy?
Three items I wanted to discuss. One is a change to the random drug testing policy and the consequences. Basically, our policy says that students who have had a positive test have 4 weeks to get into a program, finish a program, and then they would be able to earn their way back onto the athletic teams. But the issue is the counselors in the area are so busy that our student athletes are not able to meet those requirements. So what we are proposing is to allow, instead of specifically naming a counselor, we are looking at programs that we can have our student athletes, and actually it's not just athletes, it's extracurricular activities, participate in that doesn't tie them to a specific counselor and their program. So what it would be, we're changing the wording, wanting to change the wording to approved program. And this would be an approved program that administrators come up with, that everyone is satisfied with. So that we can get these steps in place that allows students who made a mistake to be able to earn their way back on without waiting on a snag because of the lack of counselors. So any questions about that?
So will it not go through probation? It'll just remain at the school?
It
If
does
they were
not
to
go
get
through probation now.
with the drug test, if it shows positive? The only
Because this is-
repercussion is not playing the sport?
It would be not participating in any extracurricular activity for a certain number of weeks for a first offense. But the issue is, we're saying that if you can do this within 4 weeks, then you're able to come back on. But there's no physical way to do that in 4 weeks because that counselor is booked up.
Because we've just tagged one specific counselor in the policy. So we want community mental health involved, those types of organizations to.
So doing it this way will allow us to get multiple counseling organizations involved so that we're not just pigeonholing one and slowing the process down. Any questions?
No, I think that's a good idea because I know when 10 years ago, 15, it was awful to get in then. And there's much more of that now.
Yes. So there's multiple places in this policy that it mentions that, but each one, we're just moving that one particular reference to counseling and that counselor and putting in approved program. Okay, second issue is a high school wording with prom. They're wanting to add to page 27 of the student handbook. After arrival at prom, students may not leave the venue. Students who choose to engage in any action that violates the prom rules will be subject to disciplinary action. I can ask for questions, but that's really not the middle school issue, so that's high school. But I don't know if you have general questions, I could answer that, but anything specific would need to be directed towards high school administrators.
So what was on the form that they signed is now in the handbook.
Mr. Bennett, can I ask one question? This is kind of off, but did your 7th and 8th grade dance include others in the county? I mean, did you include St. Michael's this year? Or?
No, since we realigned and brought in all the 7th and 8th graders from Mount Carmel and Laurel, we have done a FCMS dance. It has not included St. Michael's.
Okay.
Mr. Bundy, on the issue that we're discussing right now, does it say what the discipline is?
It does not in the wording that I was sent.
Okay.
It only refers to subject to disciplinary action.
Thank you.
Okay, the third item is a transportation policy for middle school and high school. This is something that Ms. South worked with the transportation director on. Middle school was brought into it. We've kind of gone through a couple different versions of this. Were you provided copies of this previously?
Should be in your enclosures,
Okay.
yes.
So this is basically, there are certain things that aren't necessarily covered in our student handbook for actions at school that are specifically unique to the bus. So we're trying to cover those situations to make it more specific for the students and the parents about what those expectations are. So most of our level 4 and 5 consequences would be covered in the high school. Actually, level 3, level 4, and level 5 would be covered in the student handbook anyway, but there are some lower level consequences that we felt like we needed to address. So level 3 consequence, leaving school bus without permission, so getting off at the wrong stop. That is the one level 3 consequence that's specific to buses. When you look at level 2 consequences, we are putting in a stair step for the drivers to understand and administrators to understand, so we can be more consistent. So first time offense, there's a conference with the administrator, parents contacted, and before or after school detention is assigned. Second time, before or after school suspension from the bus. Third time, before or after school suspension from the bus. Fourth time, full day suspension from the bus, 1 to 2 days. Fifth time, full day suspension from the bus, 2 to 3 days. Additional consequences will be under the discretion of school administration. And if we're looking at that many times, we're probably talking more like five or beyond days of suspension from the bus. And then we move on to level 1 consequences. Public display of affection, although that's in the school one as well. Failure to comply with established bus or school personnel requests. Being in an unassigned area of the bus, wrong seat. Throwing objects of any kind, spitting, littering. Failure to serve assigned detentions or consequences for bus behavior. Inappropriate behavior, language, gestures. Habitual offenders of these expectations, either from the same bus driver or substitute bus drivers covering the same problem, will start immediately at a second time consequence. Potentially dangerous horseplay, falsely accusing or reporting, participating in any form of disrespect towards peers, standing or switching seats when the bus is in motion. So those are all items that we're really trying to emphasize to our students.
What would an example of potentially dangerous horseplay be?
Pushing, shoving, tripping, those.
Standing up in the bus, doing those types of things when it's moving.
So any questions about the transportation policy?
think you met with Brittany as well.
Yes. She was in, I don't think we ever physically met with her, but she was in on
Back at
email
the
communications
Google Doc,
back and
yeah.
forth.
Are we taking board
That's all I
action on
have.
this?
Yes.
Is there any discussion with this? Do we have a motion? I'm sorry, was that Rick?
I make a motion. That we
Is there a
accept.
second? Katie is second. All in favor? We have a 6-0 vote.
Tonight, I would asking for an approval of a job description. We have a potential interest in a behavior interventionist position. We've discussed this with the discussion team a couple of times. We're looking at adding some more support for our students' mental health concerns, behavior concerns, and Mrs. New is going to briefly to talk about that job description.
Hi. We would like to add a position for a behavior room. We're calling it a behavior room, but it's also a life skills room. It's multifaceted to cover many areas of the students that either disrupt the learning environment of others or also for themselves. You have the job description in a brief. Yes? Louder? Wow, I've never been told that before. That's a new one. Would you like me to repeat everything I said louder?
No, I'm good.
Sorry. I can do it. We would like, it's a behavior room, also a life skills room. By life skills, I mean students with a 50, 55 IQ that are sitting in the regular classroom, but not getting the academic instruction that they deserve. Also for behaviors, though, for those students who might disrupt the learning environment for others as well.
I'm sorry, you have to shout. After
No, it's
25
okay.
years of handbells in a concrete room, yeah, the hearing is somewhat down.
It's all right.
That's what you did.
I can be louder. I don't have a problem with that at all. I can be as loud as you need me to be. Do you guys have questions for me? Because I can talk about this. I've been working on this for 6 months, 6 to 8 months, so I can answer anything you would like to know.
Well, I think it's important to understand that a large part of this is as we're seeing trends of behavior in the schools.
And it would be open to all 3 elementaries as well. Not just Laurel, but Mount Carmel and Brookville.
Brandy and I listened to Mrs. New after school today, and this is something that I think is wonderful. It's something new and breaking. It's something more for our children in Franklin County, which Lordy knows we all need it all across the country. But this is an opportunity that's not, it's fairly new, and we want to get these kids, correct me if I'm wrong, but get these kids behavior-wise so they can sit in a classroom and learn. If they can't behave themselves, they're not going to learn anyway. And I'm so excited. I think Brandy was really excited tonight after we talked, or we heard her presentation. So
It's
thank you.
teaching them to use the tools we're giving them. As adults, we sometimes
Yes.
forget that they need to be taught how to use the resources,
Yes.
and that needs to be put in place for them.
Mrs. New, I
Yes.
realize that there are so many students in each class, in each school. So how many interventionists are you looking at per school building?
Right now, we're starting with one building, the teacher, and potentially 2 assistants.
It'll be at Laurel.
It'll be
So
in Laurel, in my
We
building.
will transport those kids.
Got it.
And then we have an extensive process to go through for which students will be allowed in this classroom.
It still is a lot for one person.
She's willingly volunteered.
But
Bless
they're
her heart.
talking,
Yes,
they're
bless
talking
her
about
heart.
aides and
Yes.
aides that are trained.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Very good.
Any other questions?
This is an additional employee?
It's not really. We're moving some money around in the Title I grant.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? Is there a motion? Rick makes the motion.
I'll second.
Kevin seconds. All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
6-0. Okay. Where are we? recommendation
Yes.
for our food service contracts.
So Mrs. Holleran, Food Service Director, is recommending we purchase from the following companies. You've got U.S. Foods, Piazza Produce and Specialty, the Klosterman Bakery, and the Commercial Food System. We are a member of the co-op, so she has looked at bids. She's recommending renewing the bids from a 1 year for the U.S. Foods, 5 for Piazza, 4 for Klosterman's, and 3 for Commercial Food Systems.
You know, I always thought that said pizza, but I guess it says Piazza, huh? Daggone.
I always thought it did.
Discussion?
I move that we go with these distributors.
Is there a second? Second, Kevin?
I just have a question.
Question, I'm sorry.
The 3, 4, and 5 year, do they have guaranteed rate?
Yes.
Or did you want yours to be a second, or? Second for Kevin. All in favor? 6-0.
So about 3 years ago, we celebrated all 5 of our schools were Purple Star designation based on the honors and the activities that we do during Veterans Day. It is now time for renewal, and part of that application does require a board resolution that is in your board packet. I think it's enclosure number 7. So I'm asking the board to approve that so we can move forward with the application, which I don't believe is due until August, maybe. So it just gives us time to work on it.
Being a retired military, I make the motion that we do.
Is there any discussion beforehand?
Who was second?
Second was Kevin. All in favor? 6-0.
So the next is just presenting board policy for just review. It's the 500 numbers. A lot of those are to do with students. So make sure over the next month, if you have any questions, please reach out and let me know.
Next up will be Sarah Duffy with the TIF presentation.
Thank you very much, School Board. As you know, we've been back and forth a little bit with the county commissioners as to how we were going to get things done. When last year in July of 2022, the commissioners voted to give 15% of the TIF money, the tax money collected from the Tax Increment Financing District, to the Franklin County Public Schools. So that's what they voted, but it never was formalized into official county ordinance. So after the last commissioners meeting, Commissioner Heiss said to me that what needed to be done at this point was that the school needed to put a request in writing to the commissioners to ask for the money and to ask for a specific project for the money. And
I thought we already did that.
Mr. Heiss said that was based upon advice he got from Grant Reeves, that the school board should request it in writing. It should be for an official, for a project. And I said, well, at the moment, the school board had voted in favor of pursuing a marketing campaign. And I said, I'm sure in future years, there's plenty of things that would be suitable projects agreed upon by the school board in working with the redevelopment commission. Like in the past, the redevelopment commission paid for digital microscopes for the schools. So based upon that, you have a letter, 2 letters in front of you. One letter is to the commissioners asking them to go ahead and put, formalize an ordinance for the 15%. And then there's a letter to the Franklin County Redevelopment Commission just saying what you voted on last time, that you're agreeable in moving forward with a marketing campaign.
I had forwarded the 2 letters that she had forwarded to me for you for your inspection in your emails. Has everyone?
Did we not do that already?
We did.
Yeah.
I think it was a board vote. at
I
that
thought
time.
we already did that.
You voted
You
it.
voted it. We don't have it. We had to
but
put it in writing.
Commissioner Heiss said
We're putting it in writing.
Grant Reeves advised him to send an official letter to the commission.
Right, I thought we
asking
already did
for it.
that.
Not the letter.
Not a
Not the
letter?
letter.
Okay, all right.
The other thing I wanted to point out was, as far as the starting date of these 15%, apparently there's been some back and forth as to when that 15% would actually start. And so that is not addressed in those letters. If that is a stumbling block as far as whether it started in 2022 or it starts now in 2023, when the commissioners actually sign an ordinance, I think that's a minor issue. The important thing is the commissioners said they were going to do it. They do the ordinance. Everybody moves forward. You know, we start and go forward from here.
Sarah, you might tell the board why you're saying when it starts.
Well, you're always, when it starts, the TIF money comes from the tax money that's collected right now. And you don't know how much money you're actually going to collect right now in 2023 until 2024. And you've heard Bill mention this before. You can't pay TIF money to the schools till you know the year ended, how much was really paid. So what would be, if the commissioners sign this now, what's the money that came in 2023 and paid in 2024? The money for 2022 would probably be about $7,500 if money from 2022 was paid. And Bill has offered, as part of the advertising campaign and working with other groups, he foresees that there will be even more money that will be set aside and used by the schools for an advertising campaign. So I think this is a good way to move forward, get everybody together, move forward. And the letter can be changed or adapted however you see fit. I was just following what Commissioner Heiss had suggested based upon Grant Reeves.
Is the 15% written into the TIF or just something the commissioners agreed to allocate to the schools?
The 15%.
After the fact.
The 15% is based upon Indiana code, and Grant Reeves had drafted an ordinance for the commissioners to look at in which he quotes the 15%.
I mean, in the TIF, it wasn't written for the schools to remain whole or anything like that. It's just, I'm asking, is it written in the TIF that we get 15% as long as it's out there until the TIF expires or sunsets? Or was this just the commissioners agree to the 15% after the fact?
The Indiana code says that the redevelopment commissions can do this. It doesn't say they have to. This was the commissioners saying, Franklin County Redevelopment Commission, we want you to have to give the 15%. The reason why they did it now and they didn't do it several years ago was when they were making this decision, they were voting to change how the redevelopment commissions work, and they were making it easier. Bill quite often talks about drawing a line around properties, and they become part of the TIF. It used to be, for something to be in a TIF district, the property owners had to agree in writing to be in the TIF district. That's how it worked since 2012. Well, that was changed in 2022. You don't have to go around and get written permission from each property owner. The redevelopment commission can sort of draw a circle around the properties that are going to be in the TIF district, and that's how it works. So when they did that, when the commissioners made it easier to be a TIF district, they also gave something to the schools that we have been asking for years. You have sent letters in the past. I think I have examples in here of letters the school board in the past has asked for the 15%. So the commissioners made it easier to be a TIF district, and at that time, they gave the 15%
to the public schools of Franklin County.
I think Kevin's question, you correct me if I'm wrong, is if the TIF were to last, let's say, 10 years, for the next 10 years, they would get 15% of that increment?
Yes.
That was the follow-up question. Are we guaranteed the 15% until this TIF sunsets?
Well, the way the ordinance is written, yes, assuming there's sort of wording in there that said the school board and the redevelopment commission would have to agree on a suitable project for that funding. Like there was agreement on buying the digital microscope. And the thought of the redevelopment commission that I represent you on, the thought of the redevelopment commission is they don't want to just write a check to the school board and it pay your light bill. Because what would they, at the end of the year, what would they see? What would be the payback? It's sort of like the Franklin County Community Foundation. When they give a grant, they want to see something at the end of that grant, something to show for it. So that's the same thing, and this is in line with the Indiana Code. They want to see some educational project, equipment, something at the end of the school year everybody can look back on and say, this is what the TIF money did for our community, for our schools and for our community. So yes, it would go on as long as, and I think we could come up with projects. I think our teachers could definitely come up with some projects to use money.
I just think it's a good partnership too, with the commissioners and with the TIF and everything. It's everybody working together for a good cause.
I think it just got lost from last July to now. Everybody's been so busy. It just fell off the table. It got lost. And now we're trying to go back and say, well, what was the thinking back in July, being in all those, representing you in all those meetings, and Bill being there, he can give his perspective. But we're just trying to get that done, finished, everybody on the same page.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
He wants to say something.
Fire away.
Can't imagine Bill.
Okay, time's up, Bill.
I stole it to the end, so I didn't get that 3-minute deal. Anyway,
Well, it started at the beginning of the meeting, though.
So for clarification, a couple things I wanted to make sure I did clarify, because there was an ordinance that Grant Reeves created, and there were some questions about the terminology within that, and one of them was the 15%. We used the word up to 15%. We questioned that, and I don't know what you have in front of you or whatever necessarily, but so you understand why I was interested in up to 15% was in the event that the county comes into a situation where we have a employer who's interested in building something on 101, it's in the TIF district, and we're strapped in an effort to try and come up with the funding to help support the infrastructure, whatever it may be. We wanted to be able to come back to the school board and say, hey, we only want to give you 5% and here's why, and give you an explanation. So we used it. We want to give you 15%. As far as I can tell, we're always giving you 15% as long as it's in existence, Mr. Kaiser, or whatever, as long as it's collecting, we can do that. So I was using, so that was one of my questions is it okay if we use the term up to 15%?
That's not how it is. It just says they voted to allocate 15%.
And so
I would tell you this, is I would prefer to see 15%. And if you see that situation rise where it's mutually beneficial, come speak to the board.
I accept that. That's terrific. No problem. Okay, so we got clarification on that. The TIF district that we have in Franklin County, we refer to as the Golden Road TIF district. It is the existing TIF district as it exists today. In the event that tomorrow we created another one, we would like verbiage we believe in here that refers to the Golden Road TIF district. So if in the event that we will be creating a residential TIF district, but in the event that we do that, we think there should be verbiage that indicates Golden Road. And then we can come back to the board if we need to discuss a new TIF district, the South District, the North District, TIF district, whatever we'd come back at. But we want to make sure for clarification, if we expand the Golden Road, falls into play. If we create a new one, we would come back with an ordinance that supports the 15% of that new one, or we can combine them at that time.
What's the reasoning behind that?
Because right now, if I create a TIF district in a residential area, if we the TIF district from a residential TIF district, there's nothing in here that indicates whether that one falls into play or not. And we're hoping it don't. That's why we're creating a residential TIF districts to pick up students or pick up children and create that. So we don't want to lose that 15% in that particular situation. So that's why I wanted to clarification to say Golden Road.
I would advise the school board, in your interest, that you don't want to limit yourself to Golden Road and only the properties that are in there now. The commissioners in July of 2022 made it easier to make new TIF districts. That's when they gave you the 15%, because they saw the handwriting on the wall. We're going to make it easier to make TIF districts. Once you make a TIF district, your school funding is locked in, it's frozen at that point. You won't see the benefit of the expansion. So the commissioners were thinking about the school board and the school children when they said the 15%, when they made it easier to create TIFs. So I would say, don't lock yourself into just the one TIF that you have right now, because the commissioners didn't lock you in. So I would say if there's another TIF district in the future, say to commissioners, okay, this is what the thinking seems to be the thinking back then. Don't lock us in, 15% from TIF.
Okay, so why was this called the pilot program at the beginning?
Pilot is a concept, payment in lieu of taxes. And I'll give you an example. You have a cornfield, and that cornfield pays taxes of $150 a year. And that $150 goes to the county, the townships, and the school. So now you put in a $2 million building, and the taxes on that $2 million building are $40,000 a year. Well, once you put a TIF on that $2 million building, the county, the school, the township, you still all split only $150 a year. All that increased tax money, the $40,000 from the new building, is going into redevelopment for future economic development. So the 15% would be some money for the schools. And what the argument to the commissioners was, commissioners, give away the Franklin County's tax money of the future, but please do not give away the future tax money of the school children of Franklin County.
So I'll go back to my question statement earlier. Especially with residential TIFs, why do we look at keeping to where the school corporation remains whole? So basically they're carved out of the TIF. If it's a residential TIF and we build this huge subdivision and have a ton of students and enrollment goes up and we have to spend money to build or whatever, we're going to need that tax money, but we don't get it. They do that in Harrison and other areas where the school corporation remains whole instead of hoping to get 15% or up to 15%.
In Ohio, this has happened. And in Ohio, it's common. Currently, they call it a payment in lieu of taxes. Instead of the school district getting the tax money from the TIF, they get a payment, a yearly payment. But in Indiana, they don't use that term pilot. Grant said that's not a term they use in Indiana. But it's sort of an easy way to understand it. You're getting money because you're not getting the regular tax money. You're getting what the Indiana Code allows, which is that 15%. That's what the commissioners wanted to give you last July 2022, and somehow the ordinance never got written. But now there's a draft that Bill's got here.
I thought it was the other way around, where we use the pilot here and they remain whole. Do we not have the pilot here? I mean, that's what they.
We've never had the pilot term, in my opinion, pertains to a case where we pick up particular.
So they just call it a pilot, but it's not actually a pilot.
No, I would call it an economic development zone, or an economic development zone where we would go in and just pick a particular spot and say, okay, we're gonna capture that spot. That we've never created that yet. We've bounced the idea around before, but we've never created it. Our concern is that if we've signed an agreement with Ready. I was late here today because I just had to go push a check for $3,070,000 to North Dearborn County Water at 6:45. We got a check for 4.46 some million for this Reservoir Hill project, that we have letters that we've submitted indicating that the school board was okay with us creating a residential TIF. If all of a sudden we're gonna be pulling 15% out of that, that changes this whole equation. Our effort was to create a TIF district so we could increase the infrastructure as needed for additional housing, with the intentions on each child showing up in your school system being worth $7,500. What we're trying to capture here in 1 year is one kid, one student. So that's what our interest was that's why I'm asking for clarification. Is this the Golden Road TIF district, or does this just say TIF district? And if it does just say TIF district, have we subjected that residential TIF district to it?
Bill, Franklin County is up and coming. There's a lot going on, and you get the credit for pushing this forward. But I think there's enough money. There's going to be enough money for economic development, infrastructure, and 15% for the schools. I think there's going to be enough for everybody.
I'm asking you.
Yeah, I would love to see the kids come and we capture, our ADM goes up. That'd be awesome, and that's where our money comes from.
Well, if the commissioners really, really did want us to have that money, then I don't think that we should put ourselves in the golden road. I think we should just do from all the TIF, and then if, like you said, if at this reservoir and all this, if you can't come up, and there is one question. If you can't come up with a 15% in 1 year, can it carry on to the next year that we could be back pay?
Sort of, but
Sort of.
That's one of my questions. Okay, and I'm going to talk about what we call paying in arrears, as she mentioned, that this was created in 2022, okay? But I just need this clarification. I need your board. Your representative has spoken and brought her point to our attention. My board meets on the 23rd, and you're all invited, because I have to answer to them. They will do the same thing. Back and forth, back and forth. I need clarification. We know we're going with a hard 15%. Now I need to understand the district, because if it involves a residential TIF district, that wasn't on the table in 2022 when these commissioners put this thing in play. And so I need to go back to the commissioners and address them, because we don't want to subject our pitch to this school board is to create students and put students in your classroom at a value to you by creating housing, additional housing, up to 200, above 200 even. So with that being said, if all of a sudden we're taking 15% of that TIF district, I would like to see that singled out and that be a discussion of its own. I would like this to indicate the existing TIF district in Franklin County, which there's only one that this school corporation falls within, and that's Golden Road.
So in the event that there was a future TIF district, we would have to reapply for the 15%?
We could probably come back and amend this to say Golden Road and the southwest corner TIF district.
But why would you give up what the commissioners voted for you?
And the commissioners in 2022 had no knowledge of this at all. They had no knowledge of a residential TIF district. They had no knowledge of a letter that we requested from the commissioners, which they gave us one too, supporting that had to be part of the application for the $4.5 million grant.
There wasn't a residential TIF, but the commissioners realized when they made it easier, that they in July, they realized they were making it easier to make future TIFs. It was going to be easier, there'd be future TIFs, they were making it easier, and that's when they did the 15%. So I don't think their thinking was, well, we'll only do it once, and as we make it easier future TIFs, you'll be left out.
Well, on Brookville redevelopment, we've talked about residential TIFs for 2.5 years. So if they didn't know, that's their fault they didn't know.
No, they knew about residential TIFs, they didn't know about this Reservoir Hill project. Okay, this Reservoir Hill project. They're aware, I mean, I'm good with it. If that's what you guys wanna do, then we're just gonna go, I'll have to go back to them or whatever.
What's
It's
it,
not
these,
my-
these two letters? That's already been voted on, decided,
What two letters?
that
I've
Sarah
never seen them,
presented.
never seen them.
No, that was what,
She created.
No, this is a proposed letter.
that was a
This is just a draft.
based upon.
No, I'm not saying the letters have been voted on. I'm saying what you're asking for has already been voted on. This is just our formal request to receive the money.
Commissioners voted to give the school 15% in July of 2020.
So nothing can be changed as far as the numbers. That's already been set. We're just formally
That's what they
requesting to
voted.
receive the money, correct?
However, Grant Reeves never prepared an official county ordinance.
Ordinance, there's no ordinance to
There's no
follow up
ordinance, so
this.
they need to do an ordinance. So Bill has an ordinance.
This is the draft.
He has
So
a draft
he's
ordinance.
asking for approval of the ordinance that
Right.
says what your letter is asking
Right.
for.
Then that makes it
Never
codified.
seen that letter.
Yeah,
I understand that. And that's kind of what I'm getting at.
yeah, because.
Lord knows we're gonna meet again before the 29th or 23rd, right? So can we get that paperwork and stuff instead of just listening to it?
Well, it's between the commissioners and you guys necessarily, and so that's why I intervened here just to simply clarify the Golden Road, which if we can't come to an agreement on that, then you guys can hash that out with the commissioners or whatever, that's fine. And then the 15%, which we accomplished, and then the start date and the end date, as you, Mrs. Foster. So my point with that date is, so to that question is, this thing starts in 2022, pays 2023. So we need to capture, so if people pay their taxes late, that money isn't captured until November, December, who
Right.
knows? So the reconciliation or whatever they call it doesn't occur right away. So in order for us to make this right, we need to capture 2022, pay 2023, capture 23, pay 2024. I thought it was to our advantage that this wasn't enacted in 2022, pay 2023, because if it is, we're capped at 15%. The 15% is $7,500. I have agreed to go back to my board and ask them in 2023 to write a check for $10,000 because I can get matching funds from another group to match that. You give me $7,500 at our last meeting, I told you the difference between 15 and 20 wasn't 5. The reason I said that, or my explanation was, if you guys do this, start 22, pay 23, it will cost you $5,000 for this account. If you leave this alone and my board grants you $10,000 and we get the match, and we make this paperwork state 2023, pay 2024, we've got months upon ourselves to get this cleaned up because we don't have to have it retroactive back in 2022. So my board, I can't speak on behalf of them, but I brought it to their attention. Mr. Palmer sits on that board, and we have I'm requesting that they grant you $10,000 in 2023, so I can grab that matching fund and use it for this educational program. So if you guys want to restart this, as she's mentioned, 2022, pay 2023, I'm okay with it. I want clarification when you want it to start because it's going to cost you money.
And you said that was not a sticking point, correct, Sarah?
Right, there's no start date in those letters there.
But
In the draft ordinance that Grant Reeves prepared, it says that ordinance would be effective upon signing.
So then it's.
My problem is, none of us have seen this until 5 seconds ago.
it was
We have
in
nothing
email.
of what he's saying. We're listening to 5 million numbers being rattled off. Why, I mean, can we not get information, even a map, just,
We don't have to decide this tonight. We can take this under
I
advisement.
feel like he keeps saying.
No, I mean, he's
Yeah.
not gonna have a meeting till May 23rd.
That's what I was saying. We're gonna be
We're-
meeting
we're
for them, but
gonna-
I feel like he's asking for clarification right now.
I
No,
didn't, Bill was not on the agenda, so he's here as a surprise, so that's why you don't have
Okay.
information.
Kevin, the paper I gave you was only handed out to us in paper. I didn't have it digitally. It was just handed out in the Franklin County Redevelopment Commission. As far as I know, it hasn't gone anywhere. Grant Reeves prepared it. It's gone to the Redevelopment Commission. It hasn't gone anywhere. It hasn't been approved by the Redevelopment Commission. It hasn't gone to the commissioners. It's what Grant Reeves drafted like as a starting point.
My request would be that we have a joint meeting, because just to your point, the 23rd that we're gonna meet, I'm gonna get the same thing from my board. Why are we giving them 15? Why aren't we saying up to 15? Why aren't we doing Golden Road only? And then I'm sitting here in the middle of this whole thing, playing games. Okay?
Correct.
And so that's
Correct.
why I'm saying, put the commissioners, put the school board, put the redevelopment people in a circle and hack it out and get it taken care of.
I've said this many, many times. I think we learned in kindergarten the game of telephone does not work.
Beautiful.
So I agree.
Okay. My meeting is on the 23rd. It's at 5 o'clock in the Government Center. If that room isn't big enough, I'll find out if I can have the commissioners' room upstairs, and I'll post that on the door. I will invite the commissioners, and I am presently inviting you all.
But don't you want to know before that?
I
Or
think
is that okay that day?
I think that once we get there, we can all work this thing through. There's no time, if there's a timeline that we're pressed by, it's if you guys want me to pay you 2022 and 2023. I can't believe we wouldn't all agree that, Bill, we'd like to get the 10 grand instead of the 7,500. And we can have that conversation with my board that day. We will have Brandon Ball, who was here the last time, because my board has asked, what are they doing with this program, or what do they got in mind? And so Brandon's gonna do a presentation to that, for them. So Shelley may be there too from the Community Foundation, who has already established that account that we talked about a month ago. But I'm good with, I wanna say tabling it until we have a meeting on the 23rd. But I just don't wanna walk in on the 23rd, Mr. Kaiser, to run into that same situation where I'm having this same thing.
I agree.
They wasn't privy to everything that was going on before, just about this right here, yeah, and we have talked a lot about it, and Mr. Palmer too, and
We're on the same team, okay?
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand. We are on
Yeah.
the same team. We have the same goal and objective in mind. Get the kids in the classroom, graduate the children, and give them a job here in Franklin County.
yep. And
If there's no other questions, I'll.
I guess my question is, is it possible for all the board, or do we send a subcommittee out for?
If we're gonna
The
be
meeting.
making a vote, we need the whole board there.
Yeah, in
What
order
time-
for the board to vote, we would have to have the whole.
And that's
Board
your
there.
business. I'm not requiring a board vote necessarily. If somebody wants to send a committee of 2 or 3 people to be able to grab some information, I just want to make sure that I don't have to show up at a commissioners meeting on a Wednesday morning, show up here every Monday night, and then show up at my meeting. once a
That's
month.
fine. Your
they're-
schedule's not, no.
Good.
They're saying if you need our decision that night, then we would have to have our board there to vote.
It's at
But-
10
Can I
o'clock
say
in
that?
the
But he's looking for direction.
Yeah, if or do you guys think we're all in agreement that we would like to start this thing 23, pay 24? Then we've got time. If you guys want to go back and do that, I'm gonna be coming up with $7,500, whereas I think my board will agree to give me 10. And so that's what I'm saying, that would be the only decision that would have to be, that would be the only reason, otherwise we got time.
I like the idea of the $10,000 because then you got the matching funds, and that money is gonna be spent to broadcast Franklin County, Community School Corporation, the good stuff we do, and I can't think of the word, I wanna, not broadcast it, but advertise it, yeah, and promote it. And that's what that money is, that's what that money is gonna be for. And we need to have it promoted. We need to have the school promoted. And that's my stance on it. Because So- I got on a website one time, and it was a real estate website, and it had Franklin County Community School Corporation and F School.
So to reiterate what you're asking is, if we decide that the 23-24, which Sarah said is not a sticking point, correct?
Yeah, it's good.
So
Good. I think you're good.
I think we're good with that, and then we have time to work on it.
Correct.
So you want them to motion and vote that, Bill?
So I don't think we need to motion and vote that, okay? We know what you guys' consensus of you are. I need to get my board to agree to the 10 grand instead of 7,500, so that ain't set in
John
stone
said
or
never.
whatever, but I don't think that's gonna be a problem.
You said never.
So, yeah, and so I don't think that'll be an issue on our end, especially after Brandon gives them the song and dance or whatever. And so I'm perfectly fine with that. And then it gives us some time. I still think we need to have a joint meeting. I don't think you guys need to make any decisions that night unless you just.
But I do agree with Sarah that it needs to be in writing at some point in time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This thing, This thing's been danced around since 2022. And in 2022, we made it simpler to accomplish it. What we did was we tried to meet the standards that everybody else was using. Very few, if any, that I have found were actually asking you permission to be in a TIF district. They drew a circle. And so when we go to this residential TIF district, there's 165 homes, I gotta knock on everybody's door. We wanna draw a circle. And if you don't wanna participate, you don't have to. You don't have to sell your land or put up a business or build a building. Your taxes are just like they were. It's a cornfield. It used to be a cornfield. It's taxed based on its use, not its zoning.
So you feel that we're okay as long as
Absolutely.
we've given you
Absolutely.
our, okay.
23rd, and I'll get the commissioners.
Are you comfortable with that proceeding that way, Sarah?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you comfortable proceeding that way?
Yeah, whatever the board wants to do. Yeah.
The 23rd at what time and where?
5 o'clock, Government Center, is it room 101?
102, but I think if, we'll see how this, I'll go ahead and get the.
We'll say room 102, and if we need to, we'll be moving upstairs, and we'll post it on our door if we need to move, so that we can advertise it correctly.
I'll go ahead and get it.
Anything else? So,
Thank you.
in regards to the letters, I guess,
No motion.
no
No motion
motion.
made.
Hold.
No motion.
We're on hold.
On hold. Okay. Kevin, you're up with legislative update.
Spent a lot of time on other things.
What? I hadn't known.
As far as the bills that we discussed at the last meeting, I just wanted to follow up that all of them have been signed by the governor, as far as I can see. The other big thing, and Tammy, I'm not trying to catch you off guard, but I'm gonna defer to you if you want on the approval of the ADM amounts and stuff. I mean, I have the numbers for us
We have
and
the
surrounding
runs
schools.
right now.
Huh?
We have the runs. Those are estimates. Those aren't.
Right.
Yeah, so
So
depends on
we're
ADM.
closer to knowing what we're going to be getting.
Depends
Yeah.
on
Well.
what the enrollment is
Right.
from August or September. What that final amount will be.
And then Thursday is the regional meetings, and I'm sure there'll be more updates there for the State School Board Association.
Where's the regional meetings at?
At,
Seymour, isn't it?
Thursday is in Hagerstown.
At Willie and Red's? This Thursday?
Yes. That's all I have for that.
We're up to future agenda requests. Anyone? Okay, well, I guess this adjourns, oh, no, wait, are there any?
I'd like to say something for the recognition. Just, I attended the FCCSC's yesterday afternoon. It's a good time. I love seeing the kids out there. There's a whole list of people, but I'll just say thanks to Denny for putting it together. Like I said, there's a whole list of people. I'll mention Tanya, she was here. I was gonna mention her because she was here. But I don't wanna leave anybody out, so I'm just gonna leave it at those. But congratulations to all of the athletes, especially the senior athletes. It was a good time.
Very good.
It's always a good time.
Okay, well, I guess we're adjourning. The next school board meeting will be, Monday, June 12th, 7 PM, same bat channel. We're adjourned.
Thank you, sir.